What's going on, guys? Pride33 here, and today I've got a Destiny video for you about a build that I kind of think you should keep your eye on, especially with the changes that are coming in Season 23. I think this build has potential to be really, really powerful. If not even meta, probably not, honestly, but it could. So starting off for this build, I wanted to create something that gave the most healing possible. I wanted it to be like, I wanted to completely heal the user for almost anything that you can do. And I actually found a build that did that with one of the most underused exotics in the game, which kind of makes me sad now, just because of how powerful I found this exotic can actually be. To give you an idea, I take this build into any kind of solo content that I'm going into, whether it's a master dungeon or I'm trying to solo, the new Avalon exotic mission. Whatever it is, I'm taking this build because I know that this build is powerful enough to take me in it now, and with the changes coming in Season 23, I can't even imagine how good this build is going to be. So starting off with the exotic weapon, which is the most underused weapon in the game, the Edge of Intent. Now, before you click off, just hear me out, because I know this weapon is regarded as not great right now. So what this weapon allows you to do, and this is one of the main reasons I have it, is that it can passively heal the user. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this weapon shoots off it gives you a restorative turret, which, the way I think of it, it acts kind of like a class ability that doesn't require any recharge time, and instead relies more on hitting targets. And you can honestly spam 3 of these on the map at a time if you're fast enough with your shots. But regardless, it works kind of like a class ability that gives you a periodic cure effect. And what I love so much about that is that it is powerful by itself, but because it's a cure effect, it stacks with other healing effects. So you can use this to buff your healing rift. You can use this to buff your restoration effects from your healing grenades. You can even use this by itself with your glaive shield, and it's enough to keep you alive in most people. And that's kind of what I really like about it, is that it's a passive effect. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it is one of the only 3 exotic weapons in the game that can heal you, the Crimson and the Lament and then this one. But this one is the only one that can do it passively. The Lament and the Crimson both require you to be aggressive, whereas this one will just passively heal you. And honestly, I think that's really powerful. Now, I found another exotic that works even better with this, and it's the rnsteins Armlets. If for whatever reason you don't know what these exotics do, the rnsteins Armlets give you Vampire's Caress every time you get a melee kill. And since glaive melee attacks count as melee kills, every time you get a melee kill, you are going to get a large portion of your health and a health regeneration effect for a short duration. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, that's basically a healing grenade. So every time you kill an enemy with your glaive's melee attack, you're going to be dropping essentially a healing grenade down for you. And again, pair this with the restorative turret, and now it's even more powerful because you have a restoration effect and a constant cure effect. So this is pretty good. Now, starting with the class setup and the abilities, I wanted to go with Well and Healing Rift because, I mean, they're powerful by themselves, and I like how the restorative turret interacts with the Healing Rift. And I also went with Healing Grenades because I want the most amount of healing possible. Pair this with Touch of Flame to give yourself, restoration ×2 and extra healing. And I like to pair this with Heat Rises just because I like the extra melee regeneration, and personally, I like being able to float in the air for long periods of time. I just think it's more useful than Icarus Dash. I guess I'm weird in that way. Now, further fragments, first off, there's Ember of Emberion. What this is going to do is it's going to give you the ability to extend your restoration effects every time you get a solar kill. And, wouldn't you know it, the Edge of Intent happens to be a solar glaive. And so now it interacts with all of those solar 3.0 terms, right? Now, for the next fragment, we're going to be talking about Ember of Tempering. I wanted a way to give ourselves fire sprites, and Ember of Tempering does that really well because it gives you tempering every time you get a kill with a solar weapon, which is going to give you and nearby allies 10 points to your recovery. And on top of that, it's going to give you fire sprites when you get a solar weapon kill while tempering is active. And so that fire sprite is going to give us grenade energy, which is going to help us get our restoration ×2 effect faster. But we can take this further by adding on Ember of Mercy. Now, Ember of Mercy is essentially going to give us restoration every time we revive an ally, but more importantly, it's going to give us restoration every time we pick up a fire sprite. And since our Edge of Intent can now generate fire sprites, this weapon has the ability to heal us in 3 ways. It can generate fire sprites on double kills. It can generate, essentially, the effects of a healing grenade on melee kills, and it can shoot down a restorative turret that can keep you alive or buff your healing effects. Honestly, I love that. Now, for the last fragment, you can kind of use whatever you want. I like Ember of Solstice because it doubles the base duration of all of your restoration effects. And for me, that just makes it easier to proc Ember of Emberian, and it increases your survivability because you have more restoration. And so that's why I'm using it. Now, we can actually take the healing even further by going into the mods. So I'm just going to quickly go over to the page. Starting with the helmet, you need at least 1 harmonic siphon mod. I'm using more because I can, and I like the extra super energy you get. But you want at least 1 harmonic siphon mod because it's cheap and it's going to give you an orb of power on double kills. Now, moving on from there, your chest piece, or your gauntlets, you can kind of use whatever you want. I'm using these because it's really... I'm going to link something in the description of this video. It's going to be to another guy's video, and he explains the mods really, really well. I love that video. Check him out. He's awesome. But in his video, he explains the efficiency of all these mods, and if you equipped these on your gauntlets, you're going to have really efficient ability return usage. Now, in your chest piece, I like this mod because it's going to give you increased survivability, right? Every time you get to you're critically wounded, you're going to get increased resistance to damage. And I really, really like that. Now, going down to your, boots, what you're going to want to equip is 1 recuperation mod. The others are going to be for, again, that efficiency and ability regeneration. But that recuperation is going to give you a cure effect every time you pick up an orb of power. Now, in your class ability, again, I'm using this setup. This is for, again, the ability regeneration. But that cure effect that you're going to get from the orbs are going to be what's kind of a saving grace, because now you can truly heal yourself from any source, almost. So let me kind of break down what this does for you now. Now, your weapon, your Edge of Intent, it gives you a shield that negates tons of damage, okay? On top of that, its primary attack will extend the duration of any restoration effect applied to you. If you don't have a restoration effect, getting a double kill will give you grenade energy, it will give you a cure effect, it will give you super energy, and it will give you a restoration effect. On top of that, every time you slap an enemy with your melee attack, it's going to give you a cure and restoration effect, essentially. And we can take that even further because this weapon's exotic perk gives you another class ability, essentially, that's going to give you a constant cure effect. Well, I say constant, a periodic cure effect. I have tested this build out for a long time. As you can see, I have over 300 levels on my Edge of Intent here. And to be honest, I can't see myself using another build, and I'm not sure why this weapon doesn't have the love it deserves, because this weapon is truly powerful if you just take the time to learn how to use it. But that being said, guys, I'm going to show a little bit in the background now of how this weapon kind of works in difficult content. I'm going to go to Niamuna and a Lost Sector to show you. But yeah, this build is really powerful. If you needed a build that would give you constant healing, this is the build. I haven't found another build in the game that gives you this much healing yet. And for that reason, this is my favorite build in the game, by far. So, that being said, guys, I hope you learned something interesting, or something useful at least in this video. And let me know, because I'm making this video before Season 23. Is this build actually good in Season 23? Do you have any likes, concerns, comments? What are your thoughts? Anyway, this has been Pride 33, and I will see you next time.